Joining us now is State Senator Dick Saslaw. He is the Democratic Senate leader of the state Senate in Virginia, which is divided 50-50. Control of the state Senate in Virginia is determined by who is the lieutenant governor, and we're going to have that determined in November, and then either Dick Saslaw or Tommy Norment will be in control of the state Senate. So, Senator Saslaw, here's my first question. What type of champagne did you pop Saturday night when you found out that E.W. Jackson stormed the convention in Richmond and became the LG nominee?
I got to tell you, they already had a ticket that was easy to shoot at, but with the statements, public statements that this man has made throughout his career, it's given us the best chance we will ever get to break that 48-year jinx of not electing a governor of the same party that the president was elected to, who was elected a year before. I went to YouTube and listened to one of his lectures, and the most mild thing he said was that Planned Parenthood had been more lethal to black lives than the Ku Klux Klan ever was. I mean, when you make remarks like that, that was one of his milder remarks. If I were to get up and say the things that this man has said to the general population at some meeting that didn't involve, party functionaries, those people would look at me like I'd either had a stroke and something had gone terribly wrong, or I was just plain totally crazy. And I'll be surprised if he makes it to November. I suspect there's a whole lot in this guy's life that's going to be coming out over the next few months. And when you look at Cuccinelli and Obenshain, I served with these guys in the Senate. You can't believe, and this is when the Republicans were in control and they had 23 people. Mm-hmm. The amount of 38-2 votes, which means that a lot of the other conservatives in the Senate wouldn't vote with them, was unbelievable. Every time you saw a 38-2 vote, it was mm-hmm. Cuccinelli and Obenshain. Mm-hmm. The bills that Cuccinelli put in, one called for the firing of any employee who spoke a foreign language at a job site if the owner didn't want him to, and that would be just cause for him not getting unemployment. And a lot of the bills that he put in, John, even when the Republicans had 20-some people and controlled all the committees, he couldn't get another Republican to even make a motion to report his bills. They were that embarrassing. Mm-hmm. The business community killed virtually all of his bills in commerce and labor, the business community, because they knew that the stuff that he was doing would wind him up in court. Mm-hmm. So,
but you, Senator, and I'm going to get back to E.W. Jackson in a second, but you do have to admit, though, that Attorney General Cuccinelli, now the Republican nominee for governor, you do have to admit that he's got a pretty formidable track record in being able to win in Democratic areas. I mean, you don't get elected state senator and delegate in Fairfax like he did several times, piling up the majorities he did in areas that were not Republican.
He was reelected in 2007 with 105 votes in an area that had a Republican delegate, Republican supervisors. He ran way behind them. He barely won. 108 votes out of 40-some thousand. Mm-hmm. He didn't win by overwhelming majorities.
But he still did win.
He ran for Attorney General because he knew he couldn't be reelected.
Okay, well, let's get back, Senator,
and quite frankly, he caught that 2009 wave.
Let's get back to E.W. Jackson and some of the comments he made. I mean, you made a comment earlier that I want to flesh out, and you said that you would be surprised if E.W. Jackson actually made it to the ballot in November. What do you mean by that?
Well, generally, when you have somebody who is making remarks like that, it's evidence of a very angry person. And every time I've run into one of those people, who come across or want to come across as being a great leader of some movement, you can bet there's a whole lot there that usually starts to surface, that they're not what they seem. And I would suspect, and I've been told by other people, that there's a whole lot more there than meets the eye. And, when you take a look at who, is it little wonder that Bowling, didn't, pursue this thing any farther when he looked at who goes to those conventions. You played that remark of that woman saying, I'm for balanced budgets. There's never been a Virginia governor that didn't have a balanced budget. And in fact, the closest we ever came to deficit spending was when McDonnell borrowed $600 million from the retirement fund to balance the budget. We've never done that kind of stuff before. Mm-hmm. No Democrats ever done that. The Democrats have simply made the cuts.
So as far as the lieutenant governor nominee Jackson is concerned, are you saying that there's other stuff in his background that's going to come out that might end up getting him off the ticket? Well, I hope he doesn't get kicked off the ticket. He's the best thing we got going for us, or one of the best. I mean, but when you look at this whole ticket, like I said, the Senate of Virginia is a fairly conservative place, and particularly the Republican makeup of it. There's probably about 7 or 8 people in there that you could classify as moderates, okay? And the rest are very, very conservative. And yet, you can't believe, John, the number of 38-2 votes where it would be Cuccinelli and Obenshain. I mean, These were votes where they couldn't get Steve Martin. They couldn't get Steve Newman. They couldn't get Jeff McWaters. They couldn't get Richard Stewart. They couldn't get Jill Vogel. They couldn't get any of these people to go with them. Okay? And, the voting public might want to take a real good look at this crowd. I mean, this unbelievable obsession with abortion is crazy. Planned Parenthood, no government funding goes to Planned Parenthood for abortions. I don't know where that ever got started. That money is used for either birth control or other women's health issues. They do mammograms. They do, breast cancer screening. They do a whole lot of other stuff. When we have given money to Planned Parenthood, it's always, that money cannot be used for abortion. All they're doing is shutting down access for women's health care, and they're shutting it down for millions of women. Well, Senator, would you say that the choice of E.W. Jackson on the ticket is troublesome for Cuccinelli and Obenshain? Is it because it makes the ticket that much harder to write, or because of E.W. Jackson's problems? Which is it?
I think it's both. I think they've got a major problem because this is highlighted. You got probably the most without Jackson. Even if you'd have nominated any of the other 7, or anyone in there, it would not have been anywhere near as conservative as people would have. Well, it still would have been an extremely conservative ticket. Okay, this has just amplified it. This shines the light on all 3 of them.
Now,
and
Senator,
I noticed
what about?
Cuccinelli said in the Post that he's not going to go around defending statements made by his running mates.
Right.
I think because he knows he's got an avalanche of problems coming.
Yes. I mean, that's just a fact that the Attorney General right now is going to have to figure out how to deal with that as he relights his
There's no way you can ignore
campaign.
it. I mean, he
No,
may
there
say that
isn't.
I'm not going to defend him, but let me tell you, I don't know how you can get away from that, because it's going to be assumed that these people are saying pretty much what's on your mind as well.
Now, how
I mean, that's the press is going to follow Jackson probably as much as they follow Cuccinelli.
Yes. Now, how do you overcome the fact that President Obama's job approval ratings are down? We've got this internal revenue scandal, the Benghazi thing blowing up. History has shown that Virginia always goes the other way when an incumbent president is in, and now you've got one embroiled in all these issues.
Well, yeah,
how do you overcome that?
His approval rating has not fallen. In fact, you go to Real Clear Politics, you'll see that more than half the polls taken, he's still up over 50%. And if you remember during the and he's definitely not Bill Clinton. You remember during the impeachment trial, Clinton's approval rating used to drive George Will nuts. His approval rating was at 66% during the impeachment trial.
Right.
And Obama's still over, is still over 50%, 53% in the latest one. It doesn't seem to have affected him.
Let's get to the Democratic.
But you're right about that. You're definitely right about, and I addressed that earlier, is that it's a 48-year hex on us and a 40-year hex on the Republicans.
Right.
And interestingly enough, the last governor who went against that was Mills Godwin both times, once as a Democrat and once as a Republican.
Mm-hmm. But that was some time back. So certainly the odds, if you're a historian, it's going to favor the Republicans right now. But I think what I heard you saying is that the choice of E.W. Jackson is going to make the task easier, certainly in winning the lieutenant governorship, right?
It does make it a whole lot easier, and it just got even. It got a lot better, at least from my standpoint. The Post endorsed Ralph Northam today, and if you
over
Anish,
over Chopra. What do you think? Do you think Ralph Northam can win? And tell me why we have about a minute and a half.
Sure. What about? I couldn't hear you. Faded out.
Can Senator Northam win the June 11th Democratic primary over Anish Chopra?
I think both he and Herring are going to win.
What makes you so confident that Senator Northam can win when you look at the money that's been raised by Anish Chopra?
Well, because the biggest problem that Ralph had was up here in Northern Virginia, where Anish is from and better known, and had a 6-month head start. But I'm beginning to see people back off of Anish. I see it at Democratic functions, and when they've had these straw polls, they're in a dead heat up here. And this Washington Post poll is what shot Grebe Eads from third place to first up here in Northern Virginia. And I've been told by people, I've not been around the state, that Ralph is doing very, very well outside of Northern Virginia, but he's now apparently doing very well up here as well. Mm-hmm. And when you start here in the backyard of where Chopra is from, and these guys with the party regulars are splitting 50-50, that's a huge plus for Ralph.
It is. I think I'm with you on that. I think Senator Northam's got the momentum. I think he's got the inside track, and I think he is going to pull the upset in. When Senator Dick Saslaw, we're out of time. We want to thank you for joining the John Fredericks Show.